This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to First Customer. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Brian Pickell. He is the CEO and co-founder of KPInterface. Brian, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, Jay. Doing great. How are you?
I'm great. It's beautiful. Like we were just talking about a little bit, get a little bit more out of spring before summer comes and start beating us over the head. So I'm excited. So tell me, man, where did you grow up, and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur?
I grew up here just outside of Valley Forge Park on the West Norton Norristown side of the world. And also, after going to school mostly in the Norristown area, ended up going to high school in the main line area down in Radnor at Archbishop Carroll High School. Did that have an impact on where I'm at now? Absolutely. It didn't have an impact necessarily on me starting this business, but my family certainly did. And I think some of my colleagues in high school certainly did as well.
What do you think? What do you think rubbed off? What helped you kind of become an entrepreneur later in life?
Well, I think one thing that probably helped, I have an older brother. I have two older brothers. One is 7 years older. His name is Walt. He's a very ambitious guy, always was from the time he was young, but especially through high school and college and beyond. And I think I always looked up to him in terms of his work ethic and taking chances. And that was a big part of it. The other part of it for me personally was my faith. I had spent 5 years after high school in the seminary to become a Catholic priest. And the way I kind of look at the world is that at the end of the day, my belief in God is that he has me, he's looking out for me. So if I took a chance like I did to get in this field, number one, and then secondly, to start my own business, I figured, well, at the end of the day, I'll be all right, one way or the other. So there's chances you take, there's risks you make, but it's all worked out so far.
Taking chances. One of the bigger things I think entrepreneurs, have to be willing to do. So I love that. Tell me a little bit about your first business. Was KP your first business, or was there something before that?
No, this is my first business. Now, I worked for other smaller firms that were startup though in nature. So I was used to that kind of environment where you had to figure things out on your own. You had to wear a lot of hats. You had to work sometimes long hours. You were responsible for everything from sales to delivery and everything in between. So I helped a couple other businesses grow. So I had that experience at least, but I wasn't a founder of the other business.
And I know you're a co-founder. I actually don't know much about them, so I'm curious. How did the company get started? How was the co-founder relationship? It's a different one than just a single solo founder. It's a different
Absolutely. I'd love to tell you that story. So first of all, our name of the business is KPInterface. And the interface has to do with us wanting to interface business and technology together. Okay. The second thing was to interface us and our clients. So we wanted to make sure that partnership and that complementarity existed between all those different facets. The KP comes from our last names, the initials in our last names. My last name being Pickell, so I'm the P. My co-founder's name was Matt Kirby, and he's the K. So we had known each other at a different company before. Matt, really his background and forte was in sales, and my forte was in operations and delivery and client services. So we decided, look, we pair well. We both have the ambition to do it, the willingness to do it, the work ethic to do it. Let's give it a shot. So we quit our jobs and got together and leapt off the cliff, so to speak. But we did it together, which was helpful because, we had each other's back. And, we got, started with a couple of small, clients, and then we just kept growing it from there. Each year just growing. The story with Matt in particular, though, has unfortunately a tragic ending. And in the fact that after our third year or so, he came down with leukemia. Came down with a form of leukemia called acute myeloid leukemia that ended up taking his life after a sickness for about 18 months. So he fought a heroic battle, but ended up losing that battle, unfortunately. But his legacy lives on at KPI. Will not change that name. He is the K and will remain there. We have a whole room dedicated to him called the Kirby room here at KPI with his picture and a tribute to him out front. And then a lot of his other memorabilia inside that room here at KPI. So we often refer to that room, daily, weekly, talking about Matt. But also, I still recall some of Matt's famous sayings and use that energy that he had and that ambition he had to drive the company even till today.
That's beautiful. I mean, you want to have a legacy and you want to have an impact, and it's cool that his was big enough that you guys still kind of represent that on a day-to-day basis. I love that. And so I mean, it's an interesting kind of position for you to be in at the time. I mean, he's the sales guy, which is typically the outgoing, the business development, that sort of thing. How did you kind of wrangle with the fact that now you have to do this kind of as on your own, so to speak, with the stuff that you learned from him over the years? How did you make that transition to kind of the total CEO?
Yeah, that was a challenging transition. Not only was I dealing with the fact that when Matt was sick, my goal was to every day send him a note, an email, a message of something we had accomplished positive that day. Could have been landing a new client, could have been finishing a project, could have been making somebody happy. It could have been, kudos to one of the employees. And that was my way of trying to keep him in touch with what was going on, but also give him some positive, uh, you know, uh, reaffirming and encouragement kind of. He would work from his hospital room. I mean, he would be, hey, I'm going to be sending out, 100 emails today, and I'll be following up all week with all these emails. And he would do whatever he could. And that's just the way he and his family are. And that's the way they all are, very hard workers. But anyway, making that transition then when Matt, did get worse or did come to the disease, it probably put me in the chair, not just being a head of operations and finance at the time, but also in charge of sales and client acquisition, which I had very limited experience with. But I had some sales training and I had the ambition to go out and work with people. And that's what I did. So first thing I did actually is I acquired another company, another small managed services provider, brought that person on as my chief operations officer. And so he kind of took that load off of me. I brought in some other people to help me on the accounting side, and then I focused more on sales. So that's what we did at that point in time, and it just kept growing it from there.
It's such an interesting approach to take. How did you know what to do? First of all, how did you kind of come up with the idea of acquiring somebody to, obviously maybe bring in some of their book of business, but also get their expertise in a field that you're also part of? How did you get the idea? How did you execute on that? That's like a pretty, it's an involved process. I would assume. I've never had to do it myself, but from what I hear, it's not like just write a check to somebody and they work for you now. It's a bit more.
Right.
How did you get into that?
It was a little atypical than a typical way you would go through an acquisition. So yes, you're right. Typically with acquisition, there's a ton of due diligence and going back and forth on numbers and asking questions and kind of dating the other firm a little bit before you actually make the transition. This was somebody though we had already known. This is somebody who had worked with us, had a slightly smaller MSP than we had, and he would help us out in certain situations. We had project where we needed his expertise. And he was very strong technically. So this person's name was Mark. Mark and I knew each other, and he knew Matt was sick. And I had talked to him about it a little bit, like saying, hey, Mark, if I need help, I mean, I'm in a situation where I might need some help. You're telling me that, you're trouble growing and you'd like to share the responsibility with somebody else. So after Matt had passed away, probably maybe a year after that, Mark and I got together and talked about it a little further. And then we kind of worked out a plan where he would kind of be absorbed into KPI, and that's kind of the way it happened. So it really wasn't as involved as it often is. I was somebody I already knew, already trusted. We came. One thing that was really important is sharing the same values, business-wise and personally, and that was Mark and I. We were very much aligned in that respect. So, and then he complemented again all of our skills. He had some better technical skills than I had, and even some of my people had. But he also knew business already, so he knew how to manage business, how to do invoicing, et cetera. So he was a good complement to what we already had in place.
So let's rewind a little bit. Who was your first customer at KP, and how did you guys get them?
Our first customer was a company called Princeton University Federal Credit Union, now known as Princeton Federal Credit Union. And they're still a customer of ours today, I'm proud to admit. We got them through a referral, through a partner that we knew. And, we had the meeting. We presented ourselves, I guess, well enough that they wanted to try doing business with us. And we did. And I serviced that account myself to start with. I mean, I was out there doing work, updating servers and computers and networking issues, et cetera. And as we grew, began introducing other engineers into that account. But now we have a whole management team that manages that account. I just mentioned that we need to go back out there and kind of do a celebration of these past 18 years. So sometimes every 5 or 10 years with certain clients, we try to do something like that where we're showing our appreciation for them. And then we also typically have an appreciation night of all of our clients once a year. So we do that as well.
Love
But
that.
yeah, we're proud to have them as a
Well, you gotta be doing something right if you're keeping people around that long. I mean, that's a long time for them and you to still be in business and still be into working together. So you're early on, you're kind of scrappy, you're figuring it out, you're doing the work yourself, you're doing all these different things. How has the client that you were going after then changed to what it is today? Have you refined it a lot? You kind of know exactly who you're going after? Was it kind of Wild West back then where you're just kind of trying to get
Yeah.
business on the books? How has that evolved over time to where you guys are today?
Yeah, it certainly has evolved. It certainly was what we call the shotgun approach back then. It was the Wild West. We would consider any and every client that or prospect we came across. I used to have something I called my personal red flag, which was my little instinct to know if I was sitting talking with somebody and I didn't get a good vibe from them, that I would say to, Mac at the time, Mac, I know you want this business, but they might not be a great partner to us. Because really, in our relationship as a service provider, especially a consultative partnership that we have, you got to see the person across the table as a partner in this, because it does take their willingness, their involvement, their participation in moving the ball forward when it comes to technology and aligning it to their business. So most times it was fine, but there were some times it was more challenging. But about 6, 7 years ago, I got involved in a sales and marketing consortium just for our industry, just for the MSP industry. And this consortium, this firm that kind of leads it, they would give us a lot of help in terms of marketing. And a lot of that had to do with defining your target market and really going a little bit deeper instead of going so wide. So we began doing that, and now we focus our marketing efforts, really in 3 main industries, that being manufacturing, nonprofit, and financial services. Those were our 3 main target markets. Now, if we get referred or trip across or get approached by somebody not in that market, we can still service them. It's not that we can't, and we'll do a great job. But at the same time, we're not really out there hunting for them every day, because you just can't. You can't do a great job of being too broad, at least not, I don't think, in terms of what we do. So,
Yeah, and I don't think anybody can. I think it's still, not only is your client pool slimming down as you focus, but also like everything you offer slims down as you focus and you get better and you improve and you just kind of become like really good at a couple things, and
yeah.
that's what you get known for, and that's why people come back to you. So I find that super interesting. A question that I kind of don't want to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Peas being more of a traditional, it's been around for a long time. There's a lot of, very procedural stuff that happens. Has artificial intelligence made it into your world yet? Are you using it for anything specific, or are you just kind of business as usual and, it's off to the side, and maybe use it for ChatGPT and some other stuff, or is it somehow integrated into your world?
Well, it's an ongoing process, and I would say it's developing to get more and more integrated with intentional strategic approach to it. We're kind of at that point now where it's like, okay, we've been using it here and there, and now it's okay, how are we actually going to build a strategy around implementing AI into what we do? AI has been in there even behind the scenes in terms of some of the products that we use, especially on the cybersecurity front. So our cybersecurity partners have been using AI for a long time to uncover vulnerabilities and to fix vulnerabilities, et cetera, on behalf of our clients. That's one way it has been used in the past. Secondly, we've been using it intentionally for things like ChatGPT, right? Developing processes and procedures, job descriptions, marketing efforts, et cetera. So we used it for that purposes, probably for the better half of the last year or more. Beyond that, we actually invested in an AI program for our particular industry and for the services that we offer. So kind of on our help desk now, We have AI integration that works with our ticketing system to understand what's being asked and then go find the solution automatically for us. It's something, again, you have to feed AI, you have to teach it, you have to tell it what's going on, what's right, what's wrong. So that's kind of still in process of getting better and better, but we did implement that. And then more recently, we're just taking advantage of some things that are, built into everyday stuff. Things like, recording, transcription, summarization of meetings. The idea now that I typically don't take many notes in a meeting anymore because I don't need to. The transcription does it for you. And again, not just transcribes it, but organizes it, sets action items up, etc. For booking meetings. I'm no longer going back and forth with people. Hey, when do you want to book a meeting? Not only do I have my calendar, but I use a booking link, which is offered right through Microsoft Bookings. And people can choose anytime they want. It's available to them. It's available to me. They can just choose it on their own and set up the meeting, and I'm available in those time slots. So it saves so much time for me and my staff to use some of those technologies that we weren't using a year ago or 2 years ago for sure.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
there's definitely higher productivity for each member and more efficiency and time savings as well. So, but now the thing is, okay, we've been using some of these tools. That's great. Now, how are we intentionally going to be using AI in the future to really drive certain areas of the business to more efficiency and more productivity? That's really going to be the next step.
Yeah, I think that's honestly even the more exciting applications of AI is in kind of spaces that you don't think of it, like an MSP, like the procurement, all the just the all the crazy stuff that you guys do to
Oh, yeah.
help an IT department run. Those will be the ones that get like behind the scenes kind of revolutionary changes from the productivity, in AI, which is pretty cool. And you see all the sales products and the marketing products, and you just kind of get overwhelmed with all of it. But I think the real value will come with companies like you guys that live in the trenches, find some way to, level up your game by using it. And I think that's where it becomes, really useful. So switching gears for 1 second, what do you think about personal brand? I mean, you're the face of this company. You've got to be out there to some degree, kind of shaking hands and kissing babies and all that sort of stuff. Like, do you think about it separately than the business? Do you try to do LinkedIn stuff? Do you try to promote yourself, or is it all just KPI all day, every day?
It's a little bit of both. I've become a little bit more aware, self-aware, if you will. The problem for me, Jay, has always been I don't think I'm great at self-promotion. I'm fine being out in front of people. I like mixing it up with people. I would consider myself an extrovert, but I'm also not, and not to say everybody in social media is a narcissist, but I'm not. And I don't feel the need to push myself out there, right? It more comes from the business need of, hey, this could be good for business if you're out there and people know you. Or you can look at it as, hey, is there something I can offer to somebody else that might be helpful, which is a lot of what business social media has become today, and it should be. So what I've benefited from in the past year is some new marketing people on my team that are, frankly, they just happen to be younger. They're more in tune with social media and actually in how to use social media to promote the business. So it's been a combination of me doing some, working with them to do some. Like right now, we're filming video, short video that are going to be, again, educational in nature. And then also sometimes I have my marketing people, I give them access to my LinkedIn. If they want to post something or comment on something, they can. They know at this point what to do and what I prefer them not to do. But sometimes it's that. So it's a little bit of mix of the KPI, but also it is definitely me still staying involved with those social channels to be out there personally. And a lot of that's done by me and some of it's sometimes done by somebody else, but it's a little bit of a mix.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of has to be that way if you're an actual busy CEO. Sometimes you see so much posting, you wonder how they have time to actually do the thing that they're saying they're doing. But having a healthy mix of, team doing it with you and you doing yourself, I love that. Two more things. If you had to give some advice to an entrepreneur who wanted to start a business or just started a business today, what's that advice? What's your top piece?
The top advice I would give an entrepreneur would be I think they've got to be two things. They've got to be focused on, from my standpoint, everything we do is about customer service. So you got to be focused on the client you've got to be willing to do what's right, even when it's not fun or easy. That's just me, because I think that virtue drives through everything else, and that builds your reputation, Dean. The other thing, though, is to be as business astute in what you're doing. In other words, don't take the focus on the things you need to be doing right. Stay profitable. Use advisors when you can. People that have been through it before. That's probably one of the biggest things right now. I'm doing that right now. I just engaged a couple of advisors who are 10 years older than me, and they are guiding me in new ways that I've never thought of before. So I would say have your mentors as well. That's really important.
I love that advice. And some of the best advice I think I ever got, similar vein, is basically to build your own board, right? Build a network of trusted advisors and trusted people you can bring stuff to. I have standing meetings with probably 5 or 6 of kind of my favorite successful agency owners every month, and we just get on and talk about what's working, what's not. They listen, I listen, and we kind of go back and forth. And it's been those 30 minutes to an hour are probably the most helpful and insightful calls that I have. So I totally agree with the get somebody, and people will help. I think once you hit a certain point, you're kind of happy to look back and help people who are where you were before. So even though it may be intimidating or daunting to go find somebody, just ask. And you'll be surprised how many people will be willing to help, and at least give you some advice and point you in the right direction. Last question, non-business related.
Sure.
If you could do anything on earth and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
If I could do anything on earth and I knew I wouldn't fail, what would it be? If I could do anything on earth and not fail, I would probably fly an airplane.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm getting my pilot's license, so you can, if I can do it, I know you can do it. So, I think we can make that happen. If people want to learn more about you, Brian, or get in touch with anything they heard today, how do they do that? And also, how do they reach KPI?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to reach out to me, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm available out there, Brian Pickell under KPInterface. You're going to find me out there. Also through our website, KPInterface.com. You're going to find, ways to access us and access me there as well. So I'm happy to help out in any way I can. Somebody has a question, or if there's something else I can give advice to other entrepreneurs, whatever. Been doing it now for almost 20 years. I'd be happy to help because other people help me.
Well, all right, Brian, you're fantastic, man. I really enjoy it, and thank you for your time. And let's catch up again soon. All right.
Let me hear, Jay. You got it, bud.
Thanks,
Thank
Brian.
you.
See you,
Have
man.
a
You
good
got
one.
it, brother. See you. You too.